have a position of authority by which you can lead a team or lead a situation. So it becomes extremely important that if you have a style of behavior by which you can influence people, so that you don't take a high and mighty road but get everybody on a one stream working along with you towards a common vision, because that's when everybody sees a win-win coming their way. So that's the reason why the power of influence becomes a very, very key leadership attribute. Where does it come into play? It comes into play in almost every realm of your life. Think of it, when you wake up your kid in the morning, is it an easy task to wake her up and put her in a school bus and get her ready? It's really not. How about instances when you have to deal with your extended family, your in-laws, your extended family, getting them onboarded for possibly some religious function? You again need the power of influence. And how does it come in handy? It comes in handy in enhancing your social circle. It also comes in handy to ensure that you grow up your career ladder in a paced out manner which people give you the respect for what you've done. So that's where possibly it comes in handy. So let me take an example of a particular project that I had undertaken when I was working along with a global team, and I was working on this project out of Redmond. So I took a 6-month break, went out there to work in a particular project, and when I landed there I really realized that there were people who were diverse in nature. I had not known any of them earlier. So there was one person from Brazil, one was an Italian person with a very caustic sense of humor. There were 3 Americans. So I kind of took a little while to get to understand all of them, because all of us were supposed to work in this project which was for a 6-month period to land a strategic objective. So it was important that all of us understand each other, come to a common objective, ground frame, and then start working towards a common goal. So what happened is that initially, since the others had worked on this project for a little bit more time than I was there, it took me a little more time to establish my credibility, and I really worked twice as hard. I would work through nights, I would ensure that I have all the data points right to ensure that I establish my credibility first. Because to influence, you really need that to be brought across to the table. Once that happened, people at least got grounded and we were exchanging conversations, etc. in a very, very nice and interactive manner. But then what became very important was for us to meet the objectives of landing it with a larger team. And when we were doing this, we realized that we have to be very, very flexible in our thoughts. So how do we go about ensuring that when we take our objective to another team, if they are not seeing our way, we become flexible, imbibe what they are saying, alter the course of direction, come out with another set of learnings the next day. So flexibility of thoughts is very, very important when you have to influence. The third thing which is also important is ensuring an element of situational leadership. And you don't need to be the situational leader possibly always. You can always also ask that in a particular situation you can prompt somebody else because of certain other attributes that the person might be having. You ask him to be a situational leader. In certain other instances of time, you might want to be a situational leader. So these aspects, along with the facts that you know the stakeholders well, you have a grounded rule, set the expectations correctly, these happen to be good ways in terms of establishing influence. So let me come to them one by one. I think some of the things that I also have imbibed is something related to the 3 C's possibly of influence. And the first C is to do with the way you establish your credibility, and that comes, and credibility doesn't come in one meeting. It builds over a period of time, because what you present, your subject matter expertise, is always a result of how prepared you are for the meeting. So when you come prepared with a meeting, if you have 80% data to do the talking for you, if you have visualizations which are appealing to the audience to convey a message, and if you're really prepared with a script to deliver the message that you're talking about, then the assertiveness of your message is much, much higher than possibly if you're just going across into a meeting and taking it by the flow. So the credibility is the first piece of it, which becomes really important. The second part of it, you talked about persuasive talking. Yes, it's extremely important. And how you communicate. And at times it also means over-communicating. If the message doesn't go across well, people come to a meeting, they hear you out, and they can possibly go off from a meeting. How are you over-communicating your message to ensure that you reiterate the same points that you made and ensure that people get what you're saying? If there are issues, you take offline discussions to iron those out, but get people on to the communication that you were trying to make. And the third part that you were making, it's about the way you're connecting with your audience. So it could be power dressing, it could be connecting with your audience in the sense of having a common ethos. It could be having anything else. How well do you connect with your audience? How well do you know your audience? And how well you convey what you stand for? That also plays a role. So what I tend to do is that before I go for any of my discussions, whether it's with my team, whether it's with an extended team, whether it's in an event, I do a little bit of research to figure out who am I talking to. Because it at least gives me an element of knowing that, am I saying the right set of things which mean things to the audience? Will they be able to have a takeaway in the end? What will be the success factor for them? What will be in it for them to ensure that they have something at the end of the meetings? You typically tend to have different kinds of people, and two kinds of people come to my mind. You have a meeting and you have possibly a cynic who will really not believe anything that you have faith in. And then you start believing in that, how do I kind of influence him? There are various ways of doing it. But having said that, at times you might want to say that, let me have more positive people going along with me who can influence the cynic. So that could be one kind of a path that you take. The second kinds of person could be your potential adversary, whom you know very well in every meeting. And what you then tend to do is that before you come in for those meetings, you ensure that you've crossed notes with that person, taken his inputs, his or her inputs, ensure that they know what is your end objective, and if there is a difference, you ensure you tweak what you're saying to incorporate the other person's point of view so that he feels included too. So in one way you can term this as a political overhead, but these are frankly necessary political overheads or time that you need to invest to ensure that you don't have people who commit to something that they really don't look at, and at the end of the day you become the sole bearer of any project or any ship. That doesn't take you too far in any case. There can be two kinds of situations which can happen, and I'll cover those two first. So you can have a situation wherein, because you think that you need to influence everybody to move to a common goal, instead of remaining on that borderline of assertive, you become aggressive. So that is something which you need to avoid. When you are an individual contributor, being aggressive is seen as a very, very positive thing in you. And what got you there to being a leader, this trait would not take you beyond that. Because beyond that, you need to be assertive, but draw that little bit of a line in terms of being assertive but not aggressive. And this is frankly a feedback which came to me. And it hits you in various ways. I mean, it hits you to say that, are you listening to others? Are you ensuring that you take others' point of view? So that is an area that you need to kind of be very cautious about. The second thing could be that once you hear this feedback, you go into a shell and you kind of try to say that everybody is right and you go with the flow. And then you need to take a stock of the situation and say that, no, I mean, I'm really not a person who's in this for possibly a political campaign. I mean, I just don't need votes to go around with me, but I need to give the right direction, say the right set of things to ensure that people get to know what I stand for. So those are two sides of the story. Another thing which can also happen in such situations is an element of conflict management. And you will tend to have a lot of conflict management when you're trying to influence things, because there are various stakeholders who are in a similar round of discussion, set of decision-making processes for the same set of objectives. And in such a situation, you need to ensure that if there are conflicts, how good you are at it. Again, I can cite an example of mine wherein I had a really large conflict with a peer of mine, and I could not resolve it. I took it across to my manager, who was not very supportive. So then I just brought it across to a larger set of stakeholders. But having said that, nutshell, net, both of us had a lose-lose case. Nobody gained in the longer run. Looking back, I think that if I had sat down with my peer, reasoned it out, seen through, both of us were very logical people, seen through it and seen as to how we could have resolved these conflicts, we would have done a better job in the longer run. So these are some of the things that we can possibly see as challenges coming our way and avoid. I would say that as women, typically we always take a situational stand that let our work speak for ourselves. And that's very innate to possibly who we are and also of the culture that we come from. So I'm not saying that become some kind of a sleazy salesman and keep on talking about the things that you do. But having said that, you should also let people know what you stand for, the work that you're doing, socialize it with the larger circles so that people know about it. It's also a very good thing to go and ask people what you want. People don't always know what's running in your mind. So asking for things, letting others know what is your career aspiration, what you want to do in life is very, very important. And that also sets an expectation, because a lot of times when you don't ask, people don't even know what you want to be. So that's something that it's frankly that you have to overcome your own inhibitions and go and ask for it. That's a very important thing. The second thing that I think women don't do very consciously or in a very scientific manner would be knowing as to how a network can help them. And networks, whether it's your own personal network, your social network, or the network at work, you need to consciously keep thinking as to how you can increase it. What's in it for the other person? Keep on giving something to the other person. Keep on ensuring that you build it day by day, etc. Different things work for different people, and it's up to you possibly to figure out. For instance, for me, every social gathering might not be something that I can go in for, but I definitely make it a point to go a little early, connect with the host, because I can get to know the person when they're not really with the rest of the people, and come out because you only have so much of time in your hand. Something else might work for somebody else, but that's another trait which can help. And the third thing I would really say is that perseverance, there is no second thing to perseverance. If it doesn't work for you the first time, be on it, bounce back. You keep going on and on and on. The reason I say this, because for a lot of women, because you keep on juggling a lot of set of things, if one thing does not work, there is something else which keeps you busy at home. And you might take in a back foot and say that, okay, let me not lose my peace of mind, let me do something which keeps me happy. But having said that, if you go back, keep on going back, more often than not, you will succeed. So keep on being on it. There's no two roads to perseverance and hard work. That's the only other thing I'd like to say.